Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we review Laid to Rest. Does a blingier mask make you a doper killer? Find out on this week's episode.
Today we review Laid to Rest, brought to you by Dry County Films. This movie is about a girl who loses her memory and is on the run from a serial killer. The killer kills everyone in his way between him and the girl. What did you guys like about this film?
The makeup and the effects, and I think all the kills were top notch.
When you got Eric Porn doing all your makeup, you know.
He's good news. We saw him on Creep Van, which also had awesome makeup. It was a throwback to 80s slashers, so they used like all practical effects.
It felt more realistic when you're watching it and you're actually seeing the decapitation, faces being ripped off, cuts on shoulders and arms. They looked so realistic.
It was so well done. What you guys think of Chrome Skull himself?
I thought Chrome Skull was pretty cool. He looks cool, first of all. He's like a big guy with a chrome skull mask on. He's got his own whip, a Chrysler 300. He seems to have superhuman strength.
We don't actually know the backstory, which is a little depressing because you kind of want to know more about Chrome Skull. We never get that.
The why.
I mean, I'm less forgiving this time because Chrome Skull actually is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And you get other things, right? Like, you know, he goes after a certain type of victim. You know, we saw him patch himself up, which is very rare for serial killers.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, he's gotten injured and he has to take care of it. But the one thing I didn't like was it was maybe a little too supernatural.
It walks a fine line because if he's taking all these hits, why is he pulling a bullet out of his stomach? Is he a medical doctor because of all the medical stuff he has? Or is he also just a badass motherfucker with a chrome skull?
I gotta tell you, he's got some swagger to him. When he's going to make his kills and everything like that, normally serial killers come off all goofy and they're just like, don't know what they're doing as they're swaying.
Yeah.
But Chrome Skull, he did it so good. Like, it was like to the point where he could creep you out just by looking at you.
I'd be terrified if I was coming up against him.
Yeah, out of all the movies we've seen recently, I think he's probably the best done serial killer that we've seen in a long time. What else did really stuck out with you guys that was good in this movie?
I think the sound design was great, despite how gruesome the kills were. There was always some great sound effects to accompany them.
The characters in the film were well written.
It's interesting, a lot of these people in the movie, you have Lena Headey, who was in 300 before Laid to Rest, but then went on to play Cersei Lannister in Game of Thrones. We have Thomas Dekker, who went on to star in the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot. And we have Lucas Till, he went to play Havoc in X-Men First Class. So they really they casted well because clearly these people all have talent and have gone on to do other things. All right, let's get to it. What's your favorite deaths, guys? I think my favorite death is when the brother-in-law comes to check on them because he thinks Tucker is cheating on his wife. He comes and then so he's chatting with his girlfriend who's 10, 20 years younger than him. And then Chrome Skull just throws the knife right into his face and then comes and slices his face right off.
My favorite death actually goes to the store clerk. There's a standoff between the store clerk and Chrome Skull.
And I will shoot you in the head!
Chrome Skull just walking up, turns the gun on him, and then shoots it right into the store clerk's head and just blows his head right up.
My favorite kill, regrettably, is the death of Chrome Skull. Now, that sounds like a spoiler, but there is a Laid to Rest too, so who knows if that's a spoiler.
And we've been spoiling every other movie.
Oh yeah, we spoil every single movie. At least you waited 4 minutes until it came out. So when Chrome Skull's mask falls off, he often glues it back on with medical adhesive. Our nerd of the movie, Steven, knew about this, so he replaced some of the chemicals that would eventually burn his face. So Chrome Skull went to put on his mask, it stuck, he couldn't get it off, and it just melted his face. He kept trying to pull it off, and you just see this gory fucking head of Chrome Skull, and it looks so sick. And then the girl smashes his fucking head with a baseball bat, and it just splatters.
What I liked was when the girlfriend, Tucker's brother-in-law's girlfriend was running, cuts her body. In most movies, you'll just see some cheap guts cut out, or they just die right away. But here you see just a piece of her intestine or stomach popping out, and she's holding it and running it.
And not too much. Just enough that she could get her finger on it to push back in.
All right, what didn't we like about this movie, guys?
I didn't really like the fact that the pacing was kind of weird. They made such a big deal about how, town's 100 miles away, we can't go. For me, I was like, well, why don't you just go? You're making such a big deal about it. Just go.
Just drive, Steven.
What I didn't like is I didn't like the portrayal of the amnesia that the girl had. It was weird. It was off. It was like, I can't remember what happened before, but I also can't remember what a casket's called or, you know, what words are. So it's really weird. It didn't seem fitting.
You can form every other sentence unless it's describing a location or a person.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break.
I mean, you just now, where'd you come from?
Where the dead people are.
Those were my biggest pet peeves. Like, her overacting or the poor writing for her amnesia was the one that, like, really kind of irritated me.
I can't think of all of the names for stuff. Probably because my head hurts so bad.
It's that time, boys. Time to play What Would You Do? The game where we put ourselves in movie situations and tell you what we would do. John, you're an old man, and you're walking in your little funeral home, and you hear a banging coming from a casket. What do you do?
I talk to the casket and ask who's in there. And if somebody answers, I ask them why they're in there, for starters. And then I would probably grab a blunt object as I slowly open the casket, not fully knowing what's going on.
Strange response.
I would just open it right away.
Okay, Trav, you have arrived at a funeral home. You are the nerd.
Okay, scrolling.
You stop your car. A girl runs out. Tucker gets out of the car and goes with her, and they both go into the funeral home. You're in the car by yourself. What do you do?
They're walking inside. I rolled down my window. I'm like, guys, come on. Clearly they're not having any of it. Turn on the radio. I'll sit there 5 minutes maybe. Honk the horn. Like, come on, guys. It's time to go. We gotta go to town. And then I just leave. You can only wait so long. These are strangers, and they've almost gotten me killed. And I got a funeral the next day, and my dead mother's inside. There's no reason I should be here.
So Jay, you're Tucker. You're outside with Princess, and Chrome Skull has your girlfriend captured, pinned within the window with his knife right up against her throat. You ask him, what do you want? Like, what are you doing? Like, stop this. And then he points right to Princess, for that's who he wants. What do you do?
Well, knowing that I just met this crazy bitch and I know nothing about her, and she's been nothing but problems so far. Here, take her! Take Princess. Fucking just do not kill my wife. You've already caused enough damage. Please, sir. You want her? Here's her. I wouldn't offer up my life.
Chivalry. It's dead.
Well, I'm gonna be dead. If chivalry comes into play, so fuck you guys.
Better chivalry than me.
I'd rather just sacrifice the princess.
So that's what we would do. Let us know what you would do. Comment below. Join in on the conversation. Now, it's time to rate it, guys. John, let's start with you.
I thought that the practical effects, the makeup, the deaths were awesome. Chrome Skull, totally cool serial killer. He had it all. He was the perfect package, just didn't have that backstory. And the story of this movie really didn't do it for me. I didn't like the pacing, the story was weak, and it really took me away from the movie, and I didn't like that. So I'm gonna give this movie 2 dead boxes out of 5.
Dead boxes. I woke up in a box.
I enjoyed this movie. I think relative to a lot of the movies we've been watching, this is definitely up there in one of the better ones. The serial killer was better, the practical effects were better, the acting for the most part compared to some is better. So I'm gonna give this 4 Chrome's kills out of 5.
Chrome Skull? Chrome's kill?
I have to say this is one of the better killers that we've seen in a lot of movies. He's a badass killer. All of his deaths were really, really sick, and the makeup and effects really made this movie. While there wasn't enough backstory to appeal to everybody, I still feel that this was worth watching for sure, because it opens up a whole new world, especially knowing there's a sequel. I'm going to give this movie 3.8 laser printers that sound like dot matrix printers out of 5. I'll be back. I gotta shoot off one of them emails.
Go on, send off one of them mails.